Hello, Gemini. Welcome to the Plaid Sheep Oracle. This batch of readings seems to be sort of the theme is finales, last things to do before the change. I do mean the readings to be timeless, so that if you read this 2 years after if you hear the reading 2 years after I've posted it, that it will be relevant for you. But they are informed by the time in which I record them. And at the moment, we are in Pisces season, and we're heading towards a very sort of an extra Aries season, I think. There will be a full moon, a new moon in Aries on March 21st at the 0 degree of Aries, the very, very beginning. And then on April 20th, there is a second Aries new moon at 29 degrees, 50 arc minutes. So there's a couple of things about that. One, it's two new moons within a single sign. Sometimes people call that a black moon. It also causes things to get a little bit reversed. Normally within a season, we get, we sort of think of the new moon as coming first, and then the full moon that happens in the opposing sign as happening second. Right, that feels, kind of like the standard way that things should be. But this will reverse that. Right, the full moon in Scorpio is going to happen before the new moon in Taurus, during Taurus season. And I think I'm sort of going into this a little bit because because of a date. So I've been choosing for these readings a reading out of this Year with Rilke. And yours is the reading that's listed for April 20th. All right, this has one reading per day. And so April 20th, right, is the day of that second Aries moon. So I think that there is significance in this, perhaps for you and maybe for all of us. These readings are almost all collective readings. I think there's parts of each reading that might apply to all of us. It may be Gemini in particular that's dealing with something. And you've really been related, Gemini, in this past 6 going on 7 months, because Mars has been moving through Gemini, and Mars is Aries planet. So there's some kind of connection between Gemini and Aries. They are sextile each other as well. Right? They're, good working partners. Now, when this second new moon happens, it is Venus who will actually be in your sign. Mars will have moved on to Cancer. He moves on to Cancer, I think, at the end of March. And it's, right, Venus in Gemini, and Mercury actually will be in Taurus. So Mercury and Venus are going to be what's known as mutually receptive to each other, because his home is Gemini, where she is, and her home is Venus, where he is. And then Mars will be in the home of the moon in Cancer. So there's right? There's all this, right? There's all this relatedness happening. So something to think about. Now the poem that comes up for you is called Springtimes Have Needed You. Springtimes have needed you, and there are stars expecting you to notice them. From out of the past, a wave rises to meet you, the way the strains of a violin come through an open window just as you walk by. As if it were all by design. But are you the one designing it? This is from the first Duino elegy. And it feels also kind of very appropriate for Gemini because it has that magician question, right? Are you creating your own reality? And if you've been here, you know that the answer that I would say yes. And that in fact, we all sort of walk in our own realities and we, cross each other's realities as we move through and meet up with one another. And that this whole process that we've been in, those of us here and perhaps a few more elsewhere, moving into new realities, new timelines, mutating, evolving, transforming, all of those words coming up. And the magician is generally associated with Mercury, who, is the ruler of Gemini, your dispositor. So you begin here with delight, which I think is wonderful. Right? What a wonderful way to sort of perhaps spend this final period before the changes really begin to happen and move faster. When we enter Aries season. To really think about delight. What is it that you find delightful? I even like the word delightful. It's almost onomatopoeic. Right, and there's the color of this, right? Pink and yellow with some orange kind of happening. So heart chakras, solar plexus, and a bit of sacral chakra, right? So they're really, like the creative center of us coming up here. The card under it is the cosmic flower, right? Which is lovely too. And there's this 18 into 19. Also 9 to 10. The frequency of delight supports our capacity to create and experience feelings of intense joy and happiness. The more delight we feel, the more delight we evoke in others. So really, right, to spend this time really focusing on delight seems, that seems like a wonderful way to finish off whatever cycle we've been in. And then there's integration. The frequency of integration supports our embrace of every aspect of ourselves, allowing what we perceive as positive and what we perceive as negative to harmonize in a balanced symphony of life. So, right, to take delight in yourself, in the whole of yourself. And in the whole of others. Right, and as Gemini, right, you have the capacity to be really good at that, right? To not get stuck in one space, right? To be able to see the two sides of things. And then remembrance. And this is kind of a broad remembrance. The frequency of remembrance supports our memory of everything that we have gone through as a soul and body, providing us with valuable information and tools to flow gracefully with and in this life. So not just your own life, and I would encourage you, right, to remember all of the really positive things that happened to you, and how all of those things have contributed to who you are now. Right? What were all the really, and I don't want to call them lucky things, because, right, they were there for you. It wasn't luck, it was part of your journey. Right? So maybe you had, some really interesting things in your childhood that expanded your mind. Or you had a really good friend, or you had some teachers in school. Or there were, events that led you to new knowledge or new ways of thinking or new skills. So looking back at those things, but then also knowing that your soul's memories, right? The memory of all of the lives that your particular soul stream has lived, and there may be a great many. And there may be lives that were not human. There may have been lives as trees or animals. Your part of your stream may have spent time as water or a stone somewhere. And all of this knowledge and experience and wisdom is available if you're open to it. And then consciousness. The frequency of consciousness supports our ability to focus our attention on all the multi-dimensional aspects that show up so that we can include them in our reality. Right? It's an open mind to all of the possibilities, right? Maybe, right? Did you spend time as water or as an antelope? Right? What did you witness? Did you spend 500 years as an oak tree somewhere? And what is available now? How can you see the world and reality differently so that you can move through it differently? I don't think that there's going to be some sort of sudden spontaneous awakening where everybody in the, on the whole world, all 8 billion people, come into kind of an enlightened state. But I think that there may be growing numbers of people. Right? Because each generation there's more people. Right? Even just 50 odd years ago, we've doubled the population on Earth. So even if the percentage of people who kind of walk the crooked path stays the same, there are more of us. Right? And we spread that. We spread our delight. So whatever changes, right, the world is going to go through, and I think that there are going to be changes in the next several years for various reasons, including astrological ones. Right, we are playing a part in that. And what are the possible ways for you to do that? How is your consciousness? How can you, sort of spread that idea of delight and beauty? And an embracing of paradox and difference. An interesting thing about your reading is that there are actually no air cards here. in the cards, there's 2 tarot decks out, and there's not an air card. They're all water, earth, and fire. There's 1 air card underlying the Justice card, but that's Libra. And there's 2 decks. There's this Mushroom Oracle deck and the Magickal Botanical that are both very earthy and deal with, with plant life and loam and soil and earthy things. And I find that very interesting. I think you are being invited into your own body, right? To send your consciousness, your mind, into your own body and into perhaps, nature's body. So the underlying here is moss. Tender, attention, old soul. So there's that evoking, right, of past experience and of paying attention. Right, moss is, really interesting. I've actually been listening to a book about moss as an audiobook. I might listen to some more of it today. And it survives across really large environmental habitats. And there's a great variety, many species of them. And it's often overlooked, right? Because it's not big and showy. But it is, it's interesting. It's interest, to be interested in moss is to be interested in the details. And then we have the wood bluet. Generosity, beauty, otherworldliness. So seeing the unusual, having an eye for the unusual. The eye and eye for the striking. And then chef. Generous, indulgent pleasure. There's more of that delight, taking delight in the physical aspects of life. And if you are up here, well, actually, even if you're in the south, the seasonal change from either winter into spring or summer into fall offers sensual experience, If you're moving into spring, there's new growth. There's flowers that will start appearing. They may already be crocuses and daffodils are blooming here where I am. And if you live in the southern hemisphere, the leaves are going to start changing. New colors showing up. The sun's angle becoming golden, making the light golden. So really indulging your senses. And then we have elder. Wisdom, experience, gentleness. Once more. Sort of looking back with delight upon all of the experiences you've had that have made you who you are, that have given you all the skills and knowledge that you have. Your ability to see other people's point of view. Your ability to engage in any topic for study. The ability to not dismiss things out of hand. The ability to rely on your own judgment. Because you've had all this experience, You've gained this wisdom through your life. And then we have the Three of Water, which for me is always, or well, not always, but sort of a united emotional climate, right, within oneself. Right, you're coming to a united will about where you want to go and what you want to do. And it's looking really good, right? This is a particularly beautiful one, right? She's got these 3 pearls. Recognizing that you have pearls within you. That the grit you encountered in your life has turned into pearls. Right? That you have this kind of Libra justice ability, right? To consider both sides. Or maybe multiple sides of things before you commit. The ability to see different points of view, the ability to see reality from different perspectives. And then there's this messenger of fire, who I think is showing up as the Aries new moons. I think that in each of these readings, you're the 4th, that someone has shown up to be a representative of these new moons that are coming. And here, the messenger fire, the Page of Wands. Right, something is arriving. And here, this 8 of Water, normally, right, the 8 of Cups is sort of about leaving something behind. But I think here, right, you've done that. That is done. You are no longer in the energy of leading, you are now in the energy of anticipating. That ship is arriving for you, right? You've got your pearls in here, your wisdom, your united will, your knowledge, your skills, and you're taking it all with you without taking, self-judgment or regret or guilt or shame. This is what you left behind. All right. And, right, the messenger has told you, right, the ship is coming. And this might even be some piece of information. Right, even though it's not the Page of Swords. It may be, right, that it's a piece of information that's sort of coming up as an idea for me. So maybe for some of you, you've been waiting for a piece of information to arrive. And it could be anything. Right, it could be somebody sending you a message, it could be a letter or an email or an offer, or it could be something from source, a download that will arrive. And then we get this King of Earth. And this is, I think, you really, right, this is the integration of knowledge and wisdom, and of not being solely in your head, of taking your body and your physical environment and nature, taking all of that on board, right? That's all in your treasure chest. You have skills that go beyond the mental. And of course, right, that's always been true. You have, right, Gemini, even if you have a Gemini stellium, you've got, right, everything else exists in your chart. Right, we're all multifaceted beings and multidimensional. And along with this bodily integration, this right, ability to listen to the feelings of your body, to trust your body, to love your body. There's also the emotional component. The willingness to feel. I mean, maybe even joy and delight in feeling. Someone I was listening to once talked about even very difficult things like grief, that if you really allowed yourself to feel them, they could be exquisite. Because you are a feeling human. So all emotion, all feeling can be exquisite. And you're coming to understand that. Right? That's part of your treasure. So the underlying in the Magickal Botanical is the Holly King. And I think he's just a sort of a confirmation of this King of Earth energy, this integrated and mature energy. And he's a Jupiter and Sun plant. And Jupiter is in Aries. That's another, right? It's another little Aries nod. Right, the Sun and Jupiter in Aries coming up during both of those new moons, right? The Sun will be in Aries. And I'm not sure at this moment when Jupiter moves into Taurus. I think it's before the second new moon, but right, another nod to Aries season. And another 19. And here we have another 17. Mandrake, who is sort of the witchiest kind of the witch garden herbs, right? There's all kinds of lore and stories and myths and folklore and magic associated with Mandrake. It came up in the Pisces reading, right? Walking the crooked path. Being comfortable with being outside. And not letting that make you feel like you don't belong. Right? That paradox. That you can absolutely belong, right? You belong to the human race. You belong to people that you love, with people that you love. That you can have belonging, and at the same time, you can be outside. All right, that's kind of the shaman role. Right? Or the witch, the wise person, the medicine person. Right? Who maybe lives at the very edges of the village. Right? They belong to the village. They are, right? They are the healer, the medicine person for the village. They absolutely belong. But, right, they're a little weird. They know things. They understand things. That puts them outside. At the same time, right? Another paradox. And then there's ivy. And this, right, is another nod to climbing while remaining grounded. Right? That's what ivy does. Right? When it climbs up a wall, right, the roots are attached, right, all the way up. Not just at the base of the plant. So that it's totally possible to climb and move and reach new heights while still remaining grounded, while still sort of belonging as well, right? That the roots of your family, your friends, the place where you grew up, that you don't lose these things, even if you leave physically or leave mentally. by being outside. And then we have Moonflower. And actually for this, I'm going to read a little bit from the Magickal Botanical book. So that's the Magickal Botanical. So, first, spiritually, Moonflower is the keeper of lunar mysteries of life, death, and rebirth. As the flower only lasts a day, it helps us to make peace with impermanence, and like the fallen seeds, the promise of renewal and return. Because it follows a nocturnal pattern, something antithetical to mainstream society, mostly working by daylight, it encourages us to find our own rhythms, patterns, and creativity in the night. And then the divination meaning. Moonflower indicates finding your creative power by breaking patterns and rhythms and feeling your own way. Or actually, and finding your own way, although I think I like my version better. You will attract the allies that are able to help you if you do follow your own way, your own pace. And that is the secret of unlocking your magic, as the Moonflower floats in darkness, aided by her allies of the bee, moth, spider, and dragonfly. And the affirmation for this plant is, I open in my own time and in my own way. So, Gemini, this final period, right? I think that you really come to kind of understand yourself, right? And Moonflower actually is 18, right? So we've had this 17, 18, 19 repeat twice now. And it may have a meaning for you, but it's also a progression. I think that you really made a lot of discoveries about yourself, and I think you are really coming into a place where you can delight in yourself. And in your Gemini skills of being able to see from multiple perspectives. And to not hold anything really tightly. So this month is encouraging you to take extra delight in that. To really allow yourself to revel in your sensual existence, in your feeling body, right, in all of your physical senses. And that is confirmed to me by your advice, which very interestingly came out in the Surrealist Tarot. Usually the advice is, right, Rider-Waite-Smith or the Santa Muerte Tarot. Sort of a straightforward deck, if we want to say. And yours, to confirm all of this inside and outside thing that's going on for you, is the Surrealist deck. And the underlying is the Page of Wands. Right, so this messenger of fire repeating. And in this case, as an artist. Right, showing up as an artist of creating your own life. And then the two cards that you have are the Ace of Wands and the Empress. And often, right, the Ace of Pentacles is considered the seed, but here we see the seed broken open as the Ace of Wands, right, growing, right, that green shoot that comes up through the soil. And then this Empress, right, who's sort of surrounded, right, by wand shapes. And she herself is, this kind of wand shape. This growth. And also, right, individuality. So you are encouraged, Gemini, right, in this moment to be the artist, to be your individual self, to really delight, right, in your body, in your emotions, in your own skills, in your own knowledge, to maybe explore more of that in whatever way that you do that. If you, maybe you do it through divination, or through meditation, or shamanic journeying, or maybe you have a favorite person, an intuitive, or a reader, or an astrologer that you like to go to. And you can explore this, right, remembrance of your soul's memories. Right, this is, you know, sort of a, right, whatever you want to explore that delights you, Gemini. Do what delights you. And soon, right, some changes will be coming. The messenger. All right, I sort of feel like, right, this is like an advanced runner who's shown up to say, hey, something is arriving. And we've been given that gift to know, and to know that we have this, right, this time period to really do what we want, to kind of close out, or even to prepare ourselves for newness, for this seed breaking open and coming up through the soil. I hope you have fun, Gemini. And I hope actually, right, that this delight practice is something that you take forward with you, not just in this period, but forever. I wish you all the best, Gemini, and I'll see you next time. So long.